Hey everyone, this is Cameron Ward of Renegade Animation on RenegadePopCulture.com. Your lovely co-host and editor of the podcast is here to say if you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you fucking listen to podcasts. We are everywhere. You know the spiel by now. If you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking, and we want to put emphasis here. We are fucking just talking about the wild world of animation and today's topic. Anyway, on with the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy fucking howdy.
And everyone's favorite Crazy Lemur, Bree.
It's fucking me, and I can't believe I can finally fucking talk about this now that I don't have a goddamn embargo.
Yeah, that's right. We are now finally fucking talking about Hazbin Hotel Season 2. And just to be clear, this is just a fucking review. Nothing more, nothing less. But before we get there, we do want to talk a little bit about the Oscar submissions for Best Animated Feature Film. There are 35 titles on the shortlist, and Cameron, I have two questions for you specifically. One, how many of the 35 have you seen? And two, where the fuck is Neja 2?
Yeah, so let's talk about this. The eligible animated feature films are Arco, The Bad Guys 2, Black Butterflies, Boys Go to Jupiter, Chainsaw Man the movie, Reze Arc, Chow, Colorful Stage the movie, A Miku Who Can't Sing, David, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba Infinity Castle, Dogman, Dog of God, Dragonheart, Adventures Beyond This World, aka Happy Science's new animated feature, Elio, Endless Cookie, Fixed, Gabby's Dollhouse the movie, In Your Dreams, K-Pop Demon Hunters, The Legend of Heii 2, Light of the World, Little Amelie or the Character of Rain, Lost in Starlight, A Magnificent Life, Mahavatar Narasimha, Night of the Zoopocalypse, Olivia and the Clouds, 100 Meters, Out of the Nest, Scarlet, Slide, The SpongeBob Movie, Search for SquarePants, Stitchhead, The Twits, and Zootopia 2.
I'm so glad 100 Meters made the shortlist. That just made my day.
Same.
Man, I'm so happy about that because G-Kids has a stacked lineup of movies, and they could get in multiple nominations if they play their cards right. I still stand. They will focus mostly on Little Amelie or the Character of Rain, with maybe Chow and 100 Meters being like secondary. By now, while most people have not yet seen A Magnificent Life or Scarlet, I think Sony Pictures Classics are going to miss out this year just because apparently the reviews out of Japan for Scarlet are not great. And even though I love the movie, I do agree Hosoda needs to get his writer back from the first few movies he did with them. So, but yeah, you look at that whole lineup, and hey, A24, you better have a good, possibly legal copyright excuse as to why Neja 2 is nowhere to be found here, because even like on their For Your Considerations website, it is nowhere. And they have like some random documentaries that they've basically let die on the vine on there, but they don't have, like, next to K-Pop Demon Hunters, the most important animated film of the year and one of the most successful animated films of the year, the highest grossing animated film of all time.
Not only that, but also just one of the highest grossing movies of 2025, period.
I mean, this year's been stinky all around, just to be fair, but yeah, I'm kind of shocked, but not shocked that A24 dropped the ball, because they pretty much dropped the ball from, like, the rollout of this movie, you know, for, like, an English-speaking audience. Like, they put it in August with barely any promotion, and August is usually dead. You'd think that, they would roll out, but nope, didn't do that. So you have to kind of ask the question, why were they even interested in acquiring this if they weren't going to put the effort, say, like a G Kids, to get it in more like award circuits?
It's hilarious because I don't think I've seen a distributor fumble the ball this hard. Like, in terms of bringing a movie from overseas and then just absolutely doing every wrong possible thing that you can think of.
Oh, by the way, we did talk about this when we did our podcast, but in case we didn't listen to that, they put out this movie the same weekend that Netflix did their first sing-along re-release of K-pop Demon Hunters. So among their other screw-ups, that was a big one.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but the English dub was just whatever. It wasn't bad, it wasn't great, it was like solid, but you put so much emphasis on Michelle Yeoh, who was barely in the movie because her character was not in the movie for a mass majority outside of the one major emotional beat that was still effective. And I love Michelle Yeoh, but come on. If you were going, it's like the bare minimum of celebrity casting. You had to have someone in there. When I don't even think of A24 and celebrity casting. It's just like, oh, they have actors, obviously. Okay, whatever.
You know what the craziest thing is that Channing Tatum in Demon Slayer was honestly like a lot better casting.
Right?
He was actually really solid, and even though push comes to shove, I would rather have another voice actor there instead of Sony and Crunchyroll spending so much money on Channing Tatum. Or I do wonder what the paycheck was for that, because, it's just...
I mean, I'm assuming that they did minimum. Like, I'm assuming, I don't know all their legal things are, but gee, wish they put that money into their subtitles. Burn!
Oh, God, yeah. And it's like, it's funny, they'll do it for Demon Slayer, but they won't do it for Chainsaw Man, like their other major... Like, they didn't even let Crunchyroll touch it. They were like, no, Crunchyroll, we got this. You don't touch it. Go get a snow cone and watch a Star Wars. Like, we're going to take care of Chainsaw Man while y'all have your Demon Slayer. And also, nobody is not on here. And no, not the Bob Odenkirk action movie. The other highest grossing Chinese animated film of the year, next to Neza 2 and The Legend of Hei 2, where nobody just came out of the blue and won the box office and critical acclaim. And like I said, it's one of my favorite movies of the year. And nobody picked it up. It's going through some kind of small limited release right now because I saw Cinemark advertise it, but Cinemarks are a little out of my range of like travel, so not going to be able to see it again. And Lesbian Space Princess isn't on here either, which... Boo.
Oh, yeah. Now that brings up a question where I wonder if 35 is like the limit for the amount of animated movies that are eligible.
And some of these are like from 2024, like last year. What are they doing here? Maybe they couldn't make it last year, and that's why they're
I think
here.
it's the cutoff, because I remember, if I recall correctly, is that Spirited Away came out in Japan in 2001, but it didn't get nominated till because it didn't get a dub until 2002,
right.
Almost 2003. So I'm not sure what the exact rules are now, but if I were to wager a guess, it probably has to do with the theatrical release here in the United States, or it just made the cutoff, which is what I'm assuming which is what I assume happened. But again, just to kind of get back to how bizarre the whole H24 thing is, I can't, like you said, it's just such a bag fumble. I mean, let's be real. Neza 2 actually making the top 5 was a long shot to begin with, but it doesn't feel like they even bothered.
No, they didn't. And, like, I'm sorry, Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, is like 75, maybe 60% live action for a majority of its runtime. A lot of its animated characters are running around live action environments. That should disqualify it. And, oh, 2 Jesus movies that nobody went to see or cares about. Or if there was some care or hype behind it, it certainly died when the director of the movie decided to be a scumbag. That killed any interest or curiousness to go see it.
Yep.
And not just the Angel Studios of it all. And I always hate when these lists come out, because then it's like, well, nobody's seen Zootopia 2 yet or the SpongeBob movie. Why not wait until both of them are out? And God, it's such a weird inside baseball game of nonsense. I really wish I could understand where some of these are coming from.
I mean, some of them have got to be like technicalities. But you know what the other low-key annoying thing is that you'll get a certain subsect of people on like social media, Twitter, who'll be like, oh, the best of the best. And I'm like, ugh. See, this is like the one part of award season like I hate. Because then you have a bunch of people that don't know, their ass from their hole, acting like they are suddenly industry experts.
No, it's like, I would love to talk to more industry savvy people just to break this list down and say, like, okay, why did this get in? Why did this not get in? Is it just simple? Like, I assume the answer is extremely boring and generic, and not like, oh, there's some deep underground coup of Neza 2 haters that didn't want it to succeed. It's like, no, A24 just fucking fumbled the ball.
Maybe we're not seeing we're only seeing the final lists and not like and not like the 70 other titles that may have come before this. Or I don't know, maybe there are eligibility rules that are a little bit more nuanced.
And also, like, I don't know what it is, but I know for, like, certain awards shows, there's usually some sort of, like, entry fee for, like, competition. I know for the Annie Awards, like, the entry fee is not that expensive. I would imagine for the Academy Awards, it's quite a bit bigger. So I'm kind of wondering if, for certain cases, that might be why.
Ooh, that's a good point.
It's just amusing because nobody has seen A Magnificent Life yet. And Sony was prepping it to be like one of their big animated like darlings for award season, because it's by the guy who made the Triplets of Belleville and The Illusionist. And now that it's gotten mostly mixed reviews, they're just like, we're going to slide this one under the rug. And I'm sure that's what they're going to do with Scarlet, even though it's like, I hate to say that about a Hosoda film, but yeah.
I also don't really trust Sony Pictures Classics when it comes to distribution, because if you're not in New York or LA, it's like near impossible
like,
to
you don't
see
exist.
one of their movies.
Especially like, and I live in Austin, I should have easier access to this nonsense, but if I want to see Richard Linklater's new movie, the not the Netflix one, but the other one, I would need to go to his Austin Film Society theater to go see it. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's out of my budget for Lyft travel. Like, no. Put that shit out in wide release, Sony. And, oh god. Award season stuff is fun to talk about because it can lead to interesting conversations, but it can also be exhausting.
You know what else is exhausting? The conversation around Hazbin Hotel Season 2, which is which is why I promised that this podcast would be really just a review of the season. Cutting through all the bullshit, all the fandom drama. We're not touching any of that garbage.
Here we go. Just a quick little disclaimer and content warning. We will be talking about some topical subject matter that people might find upsetting, like abuse, manipulation, gaslighting, religion, death, all that stuff. And our disclaimer for the episode. We here at Renegade Animation are here to have a respectful and calm discussion about Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel. We are not here to care about any gossip drama, behind-the-scenes nonsense, unless it specifically matters to the overall discussion of the show. If you are here for us to do some kind of hate-filled takedown of the show or its team and creator, you can go to any mediocre ragebait YouTuber and get your fix there. And if you go after those who worked on the show and send harassment and death threats to them, you are bottom of the scum bucket. The losers of the losers in the animation fandom. If you want us to do a takedown of the show that's hyper, flashy, and filled with piss and vinegar, you can get fucked. Now then, let's begin.
So, I think we should begin with the positives because there are actually a lot of things to enjoy about this season.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, so this season does have a more compelling story. While I do question if it's still a show about a hotel, I do like the themes that it brings up. Like, I wonder if this was built up from like the Tumblr fandom discourse of 2010 cartoons and such, where the Steven Universe discourse of the theme and story of redemption. Because this season is heavily focused on, can people, no matter what history they have or what wrongs they've done, can be redeemed? And should they be redeemed? And I think that's a cool, compelling idea because, yes, Charlie is a very naive individual. So it should be challenged against her that, like, does that mean that any of the overlords or anyone in heaven who was a part of the genocide of hell deserve redemption? And that's cool. It's like finally an animated show aimed at quote-unquote adults, we'll get into that.
Yeah, put a pin in that.
Is trying to do something different. It's not just cursing, swearing, and hyperviolence. It actually wants to try to discuss these topics.
And that's something about the characters. For a show that is definitely a battle between heaven and hell, I like that each side is actually morally gray. Kind of like Wicked, where the characters, like, the story is not necessarily told in black and white. There are layers to both the heroes and the villains.
And you know what? Kind of to go back to the dialogue, that's one thing I've noticed, and this is where I will personally give the show its flowers. This is, like, such a tremendous upgrade from season 1. Like, it is just, in pretty much almost every regard, so much better. Especially with the dialogue, because there is this long-going joke that I won't go into that Hazbin and Hell of a Boss are, let's just say, a little bit liberal with their use of swears. That definitely got toned down a lot this season, and I kind of feel like these characters now have a more refined identity.
I agree. They definitely polished everything down. The designs look a little better. The animation's a lot better. We'll talk about a little bit about that with the characters category, because I have quite a lot of questions to ask about that side of the show. But this is an improvement over season 1. Whatever we have to say about season 2, they are obviously improving upon, like, now that they've set the groundwork as clumsily as they did, they are now doing what a lot of people were hoping the first season would do. Like, I'm sorry, I have to bring this up about the response to season 1 when it came out, when everyone was, like, glazing it like this was Krispy Kreme donuts.
Or, they're here for Poltergeist. Like, that's what it felt like.
Like, there were so many videos that would talk about Hazbin Hotel and then try to, like...
It was a lot of pretzel gymnastics. Like, everyone was like, no, this is the greatest show of all times. No flaws at all.
Or they would, like, Disney's, like, wish would be Catching Strays because it's an animated musical, and that's it. And it's like, I'm sorry, so many YouTubers did that, and it was weird, and It's like nobody was willing or...
Yeah, that's what I associated with Hazbin Hotel. Mediocre Disney movies.
Because, yeah, why can't you just talk about the show without trying to put down another movie that we all weren't, like, even enjoying in the first place? Like I said, I walked out of Wish, bought a ticket to Godzilla -1, and went back into the theater. So it was weird. And, like, everyone was so nervous about criticizing the show. And, or any of the criticisms that came out for it were extremely milquetoast. Not to say that they were wrong, but I do think a lot of people could have been more critical, but we will get to that. So.
I mean, so much of the discussion was tinged around, pardon my French, frankly fucking bullshit. Like, it was just weird, like, hang-ups about certain things, which, to be fair, some of them, like, I kind of saw where they were coming from, but most of them were just like, you know, oh, let's, you know, try to paint Vivzy Pop as, like, the devil. Like, she put the puppies in the shredder and stole all the children's Christmas presents. It's just like, come on.
That's exactly what we're not going to do here.
Exactly. You heard our disclaimer. You heard our heads up. We're not trying to do that. And if you try to go and harass Vivian, you're bullshit. So it's like the, I saw The Running Man recently, the new one with Glenn Powell. And it's like everyone is acting like the edited deep fake version of Glenn Powell in The Running Man. It's like what they see, like when they look at Vivian, that's what they see. And it's like, y'all, she's not that. She's not an evil person.
No, not at all.
And I don't care if she's spending too much money on Broadway shows. I really don't give a shit about that stuff. You shouldn't give a shit about that stuff. It's who caresville with that nonsense.
By the way, can I just briefly bring up the Live on Broadway special, that because I thought that special was great. Could have been a little bit longer. Like, the video is only like 45 minutes, but it's really fun to see the cast performing these songs live. And they did throw in some behind the scenes stuff of, like, you know, getting ready for the show and seeing the cast, like, interacting with all the fans who are not only, like, in the audience, like, all in cosplay, but even, like, before the show started, and they're all, like, lined up on the sidewalk. It was actually really cool to see that.
You know what the coolest thing about that was? And I'm not sure if it's in the special. I still have to watch it. So, just a little backstory. Richard Horvitz originally was looking to be, like, a stage actor, but never really made it. And Viv gave him his Broadway debut, which was so sweet.
They actually mentioned that in one of, like, the behind the scenes clips. Like, Richard Horvitz, he came on stage to do a little bit of the end of... It was a song from season 1 where, like, it was the Daddy Issues song where Alistair and Lucifer were kind of going back and forth, and Richard Horvitz played the one of the guests who came in. So that was fun.
Oh man, that is fun. Because that's what talking about these shows should be. It should be fun. Like, you're just having a casual discussion with friends about what you liked, what you didn't like. Because, boy howdy, when it's just nonstop praise and any attempts of criticism is met with glaring remarks and daggers, that's not fun. Because, let's be real here, Hazbin Hotel has a lot of structural foundation issues that, even if they are improved upon in season 2, still, you know, the veins of it all, the foundation, is still crumbling. So, let's discuss about the story first. Like, we broke down in categories. We got story, characters, animation, and music. So, story time. Did the story go anywhere?
I would say yes and no.
I was going to say, is this a rhetorical question, Cameron? Because I feel like it is.
Well, let's just see. I'm being a little sassy right now, but it felt like whatever interesting things the story wanted to do, or it wanted to focus on, I mean, let's be real. The issue of season 1, with its multiple plot points, is back in full force in season 2, where there is way too much going on, and it seemed like episode 1 like specifically the first episode of season 2, feels like it needed to go right back to the beginning to make any kind of progress. And if you're back to where you started after such a long journey in production, you goofed. You done goofed.
And like here, like basically, like we're in like full blown Groundhog's Day, and to kind of, because I made some of my own specific points, but low key, like season 2 is kind of a better season 1. And I'm not saying that season 2 is a masterpiece. I have some genuine story problems that I'll discuss a little bit more. But it does so many of the things that season 1 just absolutely fumbles the bag in terms of like pacing, you know, episodes that really should have been spent doing other things. It retroactively makes season 1 a lot worse.
Yeah, it really freaking does. And while I wish I had more time to watch season 1 again and also rewatch season 2, when the hotel has to go back to basically having either very little or no customers, that's bad. The problem with the story is there's so much going on, and yet it feels like such little happens. And it doesn't help that it feels like a lot of the introduced story beats were either resolved, never focused on again, or I'm not going to say they were like, oh yeah, they were absolutely forgotten by the writers that forgot to go through the script and story structure a second time. But now that they have season 3 and 4 to work with, they can be like, oh yeah, we set it up all along. And I just highly doubt that.
I do have to point one thing. And this is going to be my one little itty bitty tiny soapbox. Justice for Jessica Vosk. I will get more into it later, but this is like a perfect example because there was an interview released the other day that, and I guess this is more of like a character thing, but Lute has like this great setup and it's like, oh man, she's going to be like this great villain. Like, oh, she's going to team up with Vox. Like, really interesting stuff. I'm like, huh, is this show starting to really cook? And then nothing.
Yeah, I feel bad for Jessica Vosk that Lute just did not have enough to do this season. But the question I was going to get to is, you know, as far as maybe improving the pacing, I know I'm saying this in retrospect, but part of me is wondering if the show would have been better had the episode, like, had this been like maybe 10 or 12 episodes, or if each episode was 42 minutes as opposed to the standard 23.
You know what? I'm going to say something really controversial. I don't think any addition of episode runtime or additional episodes really wouldn't have made anything better. Because in the finale, like episode 8, that runs like 35 minutes. I clocked it because I was doing freelance editing. So much of that episode's runtime is just Alistair and Vox fighting. Like, literally, almost like 4.5, 5 minutes of them is just shots of them fighting. It looks cool as fuck.
Oh, hell yeah.
But then when you actually go down with it and kind of, you know, take off the blinders, you're like, look, a lot of this really could have been cut and used for other things. I think it's more Hazbin has inherent story problems, and another one of my points, it can't kill its darlings, is that it just wants to do like too much, and there's just such issue with at the foundation of them just not really weaving a story together beat by beat in a way that necessarily makes sense or everything kind of gels together. So I think, you know, at this point for me, I will still watch the show and support the show. I like the show. There is genuinely a lot to like about this show. But I kind of have to come in with tempered expectations, which is probably the reason why I didn't rip my hair out this season, because I saw the trailer, I was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to be a total disaster, but I'm like, I don't think this is going to be great either.
In all fairness, this is how I felt about The Legend of Korra season 2. and then seasons 3 and 4 got like so much better. So I'm kind of holding out hope that the same thing will happen for Hazbin.
The big thing about, like, here's a question. Would this season have been better if they cut half of the plot lines?
I would say if it was just more focused on, like, the Vox stuff, yes. Which, again, this is what I mean. I'm like, if this was season 1, we would be talking about Hazbin in a much different context. But for whatever reason, whether it was, like, Amazon dicking them around, like, other production things, I don't know. And you know what? In terms of this discussion, I don't really care because I don't think that's necessarily, like, 100% relevant, but I think having Adam, like, that first episode and setting that up, like, literally, that first entire episode of season 1, in retrospect, was such a huge fucking mistake.
Why would you say that's a mistake? And as we go into, like, as we leave season 2 and wait for season 3, why would you say that the Adam part?
Just because, genuinely, like, that first episode, to me, like, that song with Adam, that felt like that should have been the end of the season. Not what you start out with. It's just, like, there's no, like, natural escalation. And this is kind of a thing that's not exclusively a Hazbin or Hell of a Boss problem, but this is a thing that I noticed in a lot of stories, is that all of it is just, moment, like, more intense, but nothing naturally flows, and then those moments feel cheaper, which to me, again, is why I think season 1 is even more pointless, because ultimately you have to start asking the question, what did this all lead to? If we started the status quo again, literally, what did all the stuff of the battle of heaven and hell and Adam and the stuff of the angels, what did it really lead to?
I also have to, like, when I was watching this season, like, through screeners before they got ripped away from us because some of you can't help but leak stuff when that ruins it for everyone else.
Or monitor your children, apparently.
Oh, God. So, I feel like you could have cut, or at the very least, set up the angel stuff, not the angel dust stuff. We'll get into that. Like, if it was just the Vox stuff, I think that would have been great. But with how much is going on, we learn about Alistair's backstory, which is a cool backstory, like, reveal. I genuinely did like that reveal. And I like the little snippet that we saw between Alistair and Vox when they were starting out, which brings in a whole other question of story structure with how that flashback is framed compared to who we find out, like, about Vox as a person when he was living in the human world and such. And there are moments where, yeah, I was supposed to say rectum. Which,
oh, no.
Which fitting for this show and the tone of Hell of a Boss and Hazbin, but they retroactively retcon the pilot out of existence by having Charlie, for the first time, meet the newscaster lady.
Katie Killjoy.
Yeah, Katie Killjoy. And it was so jarring that I don't think a lot of people noticed that. And since we just talked about Hell of a Boss Mission 0, which retcons the pilot storyline and such to fit the tone and the mood, it's like, how many more times are we going to do this with this show and this franchise? Stay committed and stay still to what you want to do. And if you messed up the story structure and realize, oh, we introduced this way too early, well, then that's what's just going to happen. This isn't video game stuff where you can just patch it out later.
Unless you're Apple TV and you did it to Mythic Quest, which apparently that's how you could do the TV shows now.
Oh, God, yeah. So, an example of this. Let's talk about Baxter, the new addition to the cast. If you can even call him a character or a member of the cast, because he spends so much time away from everyone else.
Yeah, he got a big entrance in like the premiere of season 2, and yeah, in the dialogue they joked about him being Serpentis's replacement.
So here's the thing. His whole deal is that he is there to challenge Charlie's worldview of scientifically proving that sinners cannot be redeemed. Well, I better hope he found that off screen, because you never bring that plot point back up. And then by the end of the story of season 2, he is fully on board with the cast, acting like one of the guys.
Yeah, he's just the nicest guy.
And it's just like, he mentions all this stuff off screen of like happening and such. And they tried to do the Serpentis background like development that season 1 did, where Serpentis was actually the only one who went through an arc of change and redemption. But they tried to do that with Baxter, and then it seems like they realized that they were just doing the same thing again, because it's a scientist character, and he's a creepy little animal, anglerfish dude. So what was the point of him outside of, oh, if you were here for the lore stuff or the original production of Hazbin Hotel, that Baxter was supposed to be one of the original founding members of the hotel, and then he was cut from the story, only to then be put in the background and then brought in full force into season 2, which is like, okay, that's cool. You brought back some characters from earlier forms and such, but the way that Baxter is handled is like when a band has a really good first album and then they rush out a second album and they say, oh yeah, this album's full of songs that weren't good enough to be in the first album, so that we put them in the second album. And it's like, oh, no, buddy, Hootie and the Blowfish, don't do that. If they weren't good enough to be in the first album, then don't put them into the second album.
Yeah, just release them as B-sides.
So, and that's what it feels like a lot of this overall season is. Like the story structure of it all. They introduce stuff, and then they don't do anything with it, because they kind of metatextually, like through Vox, say, you know, it's all about pushing that algorithm. You gotta put your fan favorites out in front and focused and such, like to be in the spotlight and such. And it's like, hey, show, are you like kind of admitting that your whole thing is like the story structure is bad? I don't think so, but it was a weird line read to see from Vox when I was already feeling like, it's like, are these characters more focused on because they're the favorites? Or, It's very frustrating at points.
Characters get more focus than others. Some story beats are like, honestly, just really in the background. And
yeah, and then they bring it up at like the 11th hour. They're like, oh, right, I remember that.
And then there's Charlie.
Well, actually, before we talk about her, I want to talk about another character. Let's talk about Abel, the son of Adam, who is
voiced by Patrick Stump,
which is cool and all. I'm fine with that. It's kind of distracting to know that's him, and especially when he starts singing. But hey, I like Fall Out Boy. That's not a problem. His whole thing, and to again build up on the whole issue with Baxter as a character, Abel is introduced with having to have a morally conflicted identity role of being in charge of the new leader of the Angels, but also like trying not to follow the legacy of his dad, but also not, be like, oh, whoops, I'm going to pull a genocide.
Yeah, because he's another one of the Helliverses. Oops, all daddy issues.
And it's a cool idea. And then, like, when we bring back Lute, who has a metaphorical and literal shoulder angel with Adam looming over her about, like, come on, you can get back on the saddle and go take down hell and kill people and such. Well, hope you like going into the background, Loot, because that's what happened with your plot. It got pushed into the background, just like with Abel and with Baxter. So
Loot especially hurt me because I was like, wait, again, are we kind of cooking here? Because you know what? It felt natural. It was like one of the few things in the show that didn't feel forced. Like, yeah, she did lose him, and like, it's very like clearly telegraphed that maybe her and Adam had a little something else going on. Like, of course she'd be emotionally devastated, and this would drive her, crazy and to make completely irrational decisions. That's a great seasonal storyline, right? Right? We're gonna do it, right? Right?
You go sit,
right?
Here you go, Loot. You go in the corner right here. We gotta focus on the fan favorite characters, the V's, which their whole thing is that they're just gonna go January 6th on Heaven. So, and it's like
I don't really care. Like, I don't care. Like, your little B plot invasion that becomes the A plot. Like, I genuinely, like, other than Momentous, like, I genuinely don't give a fuck about the V's.
That's the thing. And it's like they get so much focus. You are really just focusing on the fan favorite characters. You're not actually caring about the story. Like, when I was watching this, I assumed they were working on season 2, and then when they got the go-ahead for season 3 and 4, they dropped everything or something, because it just feels like the story is so sloppily put together. And with stuff like, well, I guess, yeah, let's just talk about the characters. There's a twist with Angel Dust that does, and I'm sorry if people think it doesn't come out of nowhere, but it comes out of nowhere.
It does.
It honestly does.
You know what? I'm going to tell a little story time. So, because of work, I was able to get access to the additional screeners, but when that twist happened, I was in the middle of my kitchen, and it was right before we were going to record an episode of this podcast, and I audibly yelled, "What the fuck?" And then, my favorite part is there's, like, a bunch of, like, TikTok videos, like, saying, oh, this casual, like, throwaway line, they set it up all along like it's the Sixth Sense. And it's like, no, the Sixth Sense worked because it was, like, taken out of context. And then when you look back on it, it's obvious the whole time. You just took some vagueness, and, we should touch on, like, Hazbin's, like, world building a little bit, because, God, is that not responsible for so many of its story problems? But it's like, okay, when did Angel get hypnotized? Like, where in the timeline is this happening? It's very confusing.
And since you retcon the pilot, it couldn't have happened before the pilot. And
because it's like, what was the point of the Serpentious thing for him going to the hotel? Like, I'm genuinely asking, like, when could this have happened?
And you could say, oh, it happened off screen. You do not want your important story beats to happen off screen. You want to put them in the forefront. They should be the focus. They could have had, at the very least, one moment between Angel Dust and Vox, when Vox and Velvet came over to the hotel to, like, set that up. You could have had a moment there. But instead, we're busy focusing on the redemption plot with Angel Dust and his tragic backstory of murder. Which, like, okay, pot calling the kettle black, I'm sure at least 90% of the people in hell have or did kill someone. You're in hell. You're not there because you sold the most Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, no, seriously.
But again, the whole Vox thing, and again, this kind of ties into the world building. Like, Vox has, like, these hypnotism powers, like, kind of fucking out of nowhere, because the assumption that I had was, oh, he's controlling them through, like, the TV. So it's like, okay, how did he hypnotize Angel? Like, I guess the implication was because of his reflection, that became a TV. And, like, the more you think about it, you're like, Hazbin's, like, magic system makes absolutely no fucking sense.
And there are plenty of moments where, like, I remember asking questions like this, and even though they were probably earnestly responding about it, they were like, well, in this Hazbin Hotel lore stream number 14 of like 52, like, stop right there. If you're going to make me do homework about how your world works, then you failed to craft your world if I have to go do extra homework.
Exactly. And I mentioned this to like another friend who's not as familiar with like the Helliverse. Like, I don't feel like I should need a PhD to understand what the fuck is going on in your show.
Yeah, all that extra lore stuff that's like on fandom wikis or these lore streams, that should be like the extra stuff for the fans. It shouldn't be required for casual viewers.
Yeah, and this is like another one of my soapboxes. People confuse lore and world building as the same thing, and they fucking aren't. Like, world building is like the essential glue of like how your world is supposed to function and really how your entire story operates, because if how your world functions doesn't make sense, haha, guess what? Your story is not going to make sense either, and you're going to keep having story problems, because if you don't establish, what the rules are, then it's like, why does anything matter? But anyway, lore to me is just like, almost like those little Snapple caps and the little fun facts underneath.
Yeah.
Like, it's just little things to enrich the world. It's not like, oh, this is my spine and my skull, and if I don't have this shit, I'm gonna fucking die.
I'm glad we've established, like, a difference between world building and lore. It's kind of like the difference between plot and story. The story is the story. The plot is how those sequences are sequenced.
Literally, like, you literally do a beat sheet and an outline. So it's quite literally, in some cases, like, to each person, but a lot of times it involves literal bullet points. So you are literally going line by line, figuring out what your story is.
It's so annoying to try to piece together how this world works. And there was a video recently, and I really forgot what channel it was. It was a Dungeons and Dragons channel, where the creator of the channel had some professional world building dungeon masters on, and they said, essentially, don't overcomplicate things. Just get the bare essentials down, and then worry. Like, it doesn't matter how many details and how big the appendix is to your world, your lore book. If people cannot follow how things work here, then that's a problem. Especially with, like, Lucifer here. He gets way more focused, like, in the plot, because he becomes a story important character for how the Voxes try to take over heaven. If he can't smite people, then how does death actually work in hell? Because it's like, if Lucifer cannot smite people, like his own denizens, then, like, I guess I get what happens after you die in hell. Do you go to heaven, or is there like a hell below hell? Or is it like Coco, where,
you know what it is? Is it like the supernatural, like super hell?
oh yeah, you just got that super hell down there. It's, oh boy, it's so much worse than here.
It's the ninth circle.
And God. So yeah, let's dive into characters here. So we have characters that don't do anything or have stuff set up and they don't follow through, or it's follow through off screen. You have characters that have wildly, like, revealing things and then, like, don't really matter to the overall plot. And then you have questionable decisions like Charlie. Listen, Charlie can be an interesting character. She has it in her foundation of how her parents raised her, where the hell her mom went off to, and how she is so naive and unprepared for the task at hand of trying to redeem sinners. Does the show actually care about Charlie being the main character? Because it sure as hell doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, like, that was one of the things. It's like, whenever Charlie did something, it's like, wow, that's actually interesting. Like, I am really connecting with you as a character, Charlie. Then it's like, oh, butterfly over there. And it's like, I hate to use this analogy, but I feel like it's perfect. The show is like, oh, here's this really natural, straightforward, plot point or character moments that seems like a natural progression. You could choose that. Or, right over here is the J.J. Abrams mystery box. What will you pick?
It's like that scene for Family Guy. It's like, Lois, a car is a car. The mystery box could be anything. It could even be a box. Early Family Guy callback. So, why does Charlie feel so secondary to her own plot? This isn't like a One Punch Man situation where Saitama being secondary in his own show is the point. Charlie is supposed to be the driving force of the show, but the show doesn't want to focus on Charlie. It wants to focus on everyone else. Everyone else is a more compelling character than Charlie.
And you know what the weird thing is? Season 1 didn't have that problem.
It really didn't. And you know what's even like weirder? And this is like something that I genuinely like really, really hate to say. But to me, this is just another case of where a lot of the female characters or, female, appearing characters in Viv's show don't get as much focus as the male characters and are borderline like disinterested. Like the show just and the writing team just seems like so disinterested in like telling Charlie's story, which is a shame because her story's like really compelling. I mean, the whole premise of like Charlie's basically like a well-meaning white girl who was like way out of her elements. Like that is a lot for, compelling comedy and drama, and the fact that they don't capitalize that, I honestly, I'm just kind of scratching my head a little bit.
Case in point, Alistair gets a lot more focus even than Charlie.
Like the big reveal of Alistair being a servant under, what was her name?
Rosie.
Rosie?
Yeah, Rosie was a genuinely great twist because, yeah, what do you do about that? An overlord that controls another overlord. Well, you don't do anything with that, apparently. Anyway, and basically the only reason Alistair makes a deal with Vox to be under his wing is to pull out of the bullshit binding contract that he is with Rosie. Even though, and I get it, like, sometimes the problem with how these characters are written is that, like, yes, Vox is an egomaniacal narcissist. He would absolutely glance over the contractual agreement of a deal made with Alistair, where he literally just touches Charlie, and that breaks the entire chain and contract.
Well, I mean, it's predictable, but the way that he, Alistair delivers it, like, in a fucking creep, I'm like, oh wow, you can use the word fuck correctly.
And it did lead to a funny moment. Like, I mean, I wish they went a little further with the meanness of Vox being like, look, see, this is touching her. Da, 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 da. Or just like whacking her on the back of the head or something like, see, I didn't do that. It's like, that shouldn't count. And he's like, yes, but you laid a hand on her. Nothing specific. A hand. You're done with, boyo. So, and, let's not forget Vaggy's character-defining arc throughout the whole season.
Oh.
I gotta find a better name. You couldn't have found something more interesting of an ex-angel than I have to find a better name? Why? What? Why is that?
You know what's crazy? It's like that 30 seconds of like her PTSD was like great. I was like, where the fuck was this the whole season?
This show wants to be more about heaven and versus hell and how heaven is not great. And it has like these little sparks of brilliance with these characters, like Vaggy seeing her entire flashback of what happens.
Right. And I guess the implication is that, she had another love and her love was like torn away. And my fucked up headcanon is that was the angel that got killed at the start of the season 1.
Oh, I could see that. That would be...
Yeah.
It's like having a really cool character idea and then giving them nothing to do. It's like the Ice Age problem. You gotta have every character do something in the movie or else they feel completely artificial and superfluous to the plot. Well, congrats. Vaggie felt superficial to the plot because she was too busy dealing with the fact that Charlie is not listening to anyone because his whole show has a issue of communication. And she's like, okay, I gotta go talk to my girlfriend, but first, what about this name? Does this work? And it's like, oh my god. It's like the hat gag in Tremors 4. That is that one character's whole thing is that he wants to have a good hat, and then that's it.
Or, I forget what movie it is, but I want my $2.
Oh boy, yeah. And it's like, there were some interesting little dynamics that I wanted to see more of. I liked seeing Baxter with Nifty, and Nifty getting kind of a spotlight with one of her songs was fun.
Oh, the Clean It Up song?
Yeah.
You know what? Can I actually talk about that song for a sec? Like, I didn't hate the song. Like, it's cute, but why is it there? Genuinely, what does it add to this story? And I feel like, if I haven't said this already, we have to have a serious conversation. Hazbin has great songs, but structurally, it's kind of a bad musical.
Well, it's like, I get it. There are two different ways to have musical numbers. You can have musical numbers that push the plot forward, or you can have very character-defining musical numbers. It's the Disney way, where you either have the ones that push the plot forward, or you have the ones that push the characters forward. There are way too many songs in Hazbin Hotel Season 2.
20, to be exact.
They increased the number of them, and they are all way too short. There are too many of them. And to be blunt, they aren't as good as Season 1's. There are a few good ones, but let's be real, there are too many songs.
To me, like, especially if you're doing, like, Broadway style, like, it should be both character and plot. And I feel like Gravity, that's the problem with Gravity, is Gravity's so goddamn good that, like, nothing can compare to it. Because to me, this is, like, what a Broadway song should be. It's like Lute is expressing her feelings and she is saying her plan. But what does Gravity lead to? Fucking nothing.
Yeah, that's the peak of Lute's story arc in this season.
And it's like, there's no sense of urgency. Like, even if it's, like, down the road, like Season 3, it's like, why was this here? Because, again, the fact, Lute's, like, gets one other thing to do this season. It's a fucking bullshit fight at the end. And, I could say it's bullshit. It's like, oh, fuck, we forgot to give her to do something. Let's just give her, like, a reprise of Gravity and have her, duke it out with Vaggie again for whatever reason. I don't know why. Lute's a petty bitch, I guess.
Well, it's funny because Gravity was, like, it had a cute little moment at the end where Abel's just like, fuck, okay, bye. But are you telling me because of how the story is structured that Abel did not tell Sarah or Emily or anyone else in heaven that, like, hey, maybe we need to lock up Lute?
Yeah, like, why are we having her go on missions? Like, this bitch is crazy. Like, she could cause, like, an interdimensional war because, her boss that she had, like, a really unhealthy, probably sexual attraction to has died.
Which is so funny because Adam was just like, I named you Vaggie after my favorite thing. Pretty sweet, right? And it's like, so you just Lute was just a whatever name? Okay, I would feel kind of shitty after that if Adam gave Vaggie a very special name for the most misogynistic of reasons.
Of course.
But still, like, in their own twisted, toxic relationship, I feel like Lute would have been like, fuck, I hate my name. Give me a better name, dipshit.
Well, I think the question you have to ask is, like, was it, like, an obsession or, like, were they actually going, because, like, part of me thinks that they kind of were, because that would make sense. But again, with, like, the urgency, like, if you're not going to do anything for Loot this season, I'm like, I don't know, it feels like, that big balloon is, like, slowly deflating. It's like, it doesn't make sense that Loot would just, at times, quite literally, stand in the background as all this shit is happening.
She is the Starscream of Hazbin Hotel because she is outwardly saying, I will cause an interdimensional war between heaven and hell, caused by me, and I will not regret it because I want someone to be sad, and I want them to know that I'm responsible for it. And nobody's like, lock her up. And because she just sits there in the background and does nothing but pull off Starscream isms of like, the moment the gift basket plan does not work, I will rain hell upon hell. Except, hell has those screaming thunderstorms to deal with. Which, okay, that was actually a pretty decent joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially
like
at the end, there's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about Emily and Sarah Abel, their failed attempt of trying to garner peace. Apologize. Listen, we understand the point of that whole decision-making process. They are so tone-deaf that they think a fancy gift basket with a bunch of cheese and chocolate and caramels, doesn't matter how good the caramels are, they think it's going to be enough to apologize for, like, by the way, sorry for killing thousands of your people, but whoops.
But you know what? This actually kind of ties in my whole thing with Sarah. Like, I get, like, to me, I feel like that's a natural direction for her arc to go. But here's the problem and why it feels hollow to me. Is there really any time in the show that we actually see the impact of the exterminations and, like, the trauma on the denizens of hell? Like, anyone that we could personally connect to, like, anyone who's, like, personally lost anyone. It's like, oh no, people died.
Yeah, nobody talks about they lost a loved one, or it's like mentioned off screen by some random no-name character. Or it's like Carmilla Carmine is the only one to talk about, hey, I almost lost my daughters during an extermination sequence. And that's how I found out that you can kill angels. But
the weird thing is, like, the daughters aren't really even characters.
No.
They're just like, they're plot devices, or...
Right. Like, there's no emotional connection. Now, if it was, like, Angel had, like, lost someone, it'd be like, oh, fuck. Now we have something to kind of anchor how deep this is and why Charlie is so adamant about making the hotel work. Otherwise, like, these what are supposed to be big feeling moments just fall completely flat.
It's the whole thing of, like, learning the wrong, like, lessons from the 2010s cartoon era of shows like Adventure Time and Steven Universe. Yes, I love the big moments from Adventure Time. It is really heartbreaking the moment the tone shifts and you realize that the Ice King is a tragic character instead of a bumbling, weird old man wizard.
Right.
But that took like 3 to 4 seasons of build
yeah,
up.
like that was like close. That was like 100 plus like segments or whatever.
Like that, it's like the moment's like, oh, we're going to learn about his, like, another like failure compilation video of the Ice King being a failure, and then it's like, wait, what the hell is this? What do you mean he used to be an actual person? And then you learn about his relationship with the vampire girl, and it's like super heartbreaking for a show that looks like Adventure Time. And here, Hazbin Hotel loves its big, like, story beat moments, but they don't know how to structure them in a way for the characters to get to those moments naturally.
It almost reminds me of if, like, the Ghost and Molly McGee began episode 1 or 2 with the big stuff at the end of season 1.
It was funny because, like, with the Ghost and Molly McGee, season 2 started implementing the plot until, of course, they got their season 3 taken away, and then they had to wrap everything up into a special.
Which, all things considered, yeah, I still think they handled, like, pretty well. But since we're talking a lot about the 2010s cartoons, I feel like I said something controversial in our group chat. Should I say it now?
Do it.
Okay. Hazbin is low-key a kid's show in a trench coat.
It wants to be seen as an adult show, and it tries to throw as many sexual innuendos, violent moments, and how many times a character can say "fuck."
No, you're doing it wrong. It's like "fuck."
Yeah, and it feels like a kid's show, except it's not a kid's show. It wants to be an adult show, but it's like halfway committed, like lost to that commitment because they know they have a large child audience. It's like anytime someone during the early eras of Flash animation were making like, no, the joke of the show is that it's making fun of kids shows, and then it became a kids show.
Like, I'll be fair to season 2. Like, to me, like, there is some more mature storytelling moments that it's not as big of a problem that it was in season 1. Like, episode 3 of season 1 straight up is a fucking Disney Channel plot. Like, low-key, like, there's been, like, some plots in Hannah Montana that have been more intense than, like, that episode. It's just like, oh, we gotta do trust exercises. It's like, cool. How does this add to the plot? Like, you could have done so many cooler things, and you're, wasting time doing, like, C-grade, like, Disney Channel plots. It's like, oh my god.
Also, Lucifer, how do you not know who the overlords are? You are the Lord of Hell. Where do you not know who the V's are? Do you not know who Rosie or Zestial Morde or Zezzy or the...
But Cameron, you don't understand. He's so depressed.
You could still do your job. I'm just saying, it's amazing that he doesn't know who the overlords are. Does he know who the Deadly Sins are? Because the show... Well, and maybe this was because they had to keep Hazbin and Helluva separated for the longest time for no reason. They had, like, reference to the fact that Lucifer was supposed to be at the Helluva Boss courtroom episode, but he wasn't there. And even then, would Satan have respected him enough to, I want to see how that dynamic works, because it seems kind of weird how, okay, does Satan rule over hell or does Lucifer rule over hell?
Yeah, it's a lot of inconsistency, and again, the world building is, this flimsy world building. Honestly, like, if I was to pinpoint, like, just one specific problem with the Helliverse, that world building bites them in the ass 95% of the time. Like, if they had more concise world building, like, especially, like, when we get to talking about, like, the final episode, I don't think most of us would nearly have as many problems with the show, because a lot of these problems just simply would not exist. And again, with the kid show, like, for as mature as Hazbin wants to be, it's weirdly, like, not super focused on sex, even though we have a bunch of, like, dicks in the background. Like, I get what they were trying to do with Charlie and Vaggie. Like, they were doing the on-stage, like, if you've seen Wicked, as long as you're mine, where they're just kind of caressing each other and they're dancing, even though clearly, like, those two are fucking. Like, that's what's happening. Like, I'm sorry, it's PG, but it's like, okay, like, I'm not asking for, like, Charlie and Vaggie to full on, X level stuff, but you would have thought they would at least have intercut it with them actually being, like, a little bit intimate with each other.
You would think, but
they don't like doing that for some reason. It's always cut to the end like this was some PG-13 level nonsense. And again, it's that big issue that a lot of media is having where it's meant to be horror and adult and mature, but then it gets an unexpectedly big kid fan base and they can't really go as far as they want to. Even though one of its main characters literally does porn. And
which is, like, so weird, because even with that, they didn't really, like, show it as much of, like, a little boing. But, like, and here's the thing that's ridiculous to me. I mean, I'm not sure what your guys' childhood was, but My mom let me watch Titanic uncensored when I was 6. I think my first R-rated movie was Clan of the Cave Bear. It's like, are we just that hung up on like areolas and like actually showing dicks? I'm like, I get that you don't want to make like hentai or like anything like super explicit, but it's like, come on.
Well, when other Amazon Prime shows like Vox Machina and to some degree Invincible are doing more than what Hazbin Hotel is doing, then it seems like you're kind of missing the point of being an adult show when you're supposed to have all these limitations broken off of you because you're aimed at a older audience, so you can do more with your visuals and storytelling. But yeah, it's like a slightly spicier kids show, and that would be fine if that's what it wanted to be, but it obviously wants to be taken seriously, especially with that last episode where like Vox wants to blow up heaven. Like, and Vox is a murdering narcissist. His whole backstory is the fact that
his song is fucking great.
I love Vader. It's honestly one of my favorites on the soundtrack.
Really, it's like, I like Gravity, I like Easy, I like Love in a Bottle, I like Brighter, and that's it.
Yeah, like a lot of it is just nothing. Like, because I think, Cameron, you made this comparison. A lot of them just feel like they were made for TikTok.
They're so short, because even though I love Gravity, which is so funny that we're talking about this during the opening weekend of Wicked for Good, because of Lute's voice actress, who was in Wicked, so...
Yeah, I actually saw her in Wicked, and I've seen Wicked twice on Broadway, once on tour. I saw her on Broadway, I think this was back in like 2021. It was one of the last few shows I saw before, not 2021, 2019, before happened. But Jessica Voss, like, if you've ever heard of her backstory, like, she originally started in Wall Street, decided to full out live her dream, like, truly inspirational stuff. But the way her vocals are, like, she is so fucking clean, but the way that she articulates her voice, like, she is a natural for voiceover. And like, this might be me fangirling a little bit, but I think of like all the voice actors on Hazbin, like, she is one of the most vocally gifted of all of them, and they don't use her, and it hurts me to my soul.
The problem with Gravity, and again, a lot of these songs have the same issues, is they're missing like another verse. They are like, you have your opening bit, you have your big chorus and like verse moment, and then you cut to the last third by skipping over the second half of the song. And
yeah,
they're like 2 minutes long. They really do feel like they're built for TikTok. A lot of pop song, and this isn't a Hell of a Boss, Hell of Verse issue. A lot of music is kind of coming out like that recently. Like, God, what was this song that I'm really like? It's an earworm inside me right now, Gigolo. It is too short. It is like 2 minutes long, and it's missing something. These songs are missing something. Either you had to cut back on the songs and make them longer, or you had to just say, hey, you know what? We're going to make 3-minute songs. Sorry, Amazon budgets. We're going to do that. And I want to try to remember some of these, like Cherry Bomb and Serpentis have a fun musical number, but
I couldn't remember a single lyric.
Oh, it's called Piss, a love song.
God. And yeah, the songs are like supposed to be the bright spot of this show. It makes it stand out, but then it's also the worst part because the songs aren't implemented well or are all that good. It's like there's a reason why every Disney movie from the 90s has, at the very least, 6 songs, with one of them being the reprisal of one of the songs.
Because when you only have 90 minutes to tell your story, you want to make the most out of the musical numbers.
Yeah, you gotta economize that shit because they drive the story forward. Which, by the way, this is just a general like PSA. if you've never watched Howard Ashman's lecture for when he first came to Disney, absolutely give it a listen. Like, the version that's online, I think, is about, like, 15 minutes or whatever, but he kind of breaks down the history of Disney and, like, musical theater and, like, how you use songs as a storytelling device. Like, that, to me, if you listen to that, it will make a lot of what we're saying about, like, Hazbin kind of being a bad musical, not its music, but just bad in that it doesn't use its music to capitalize on building meaningful character moments or, like, moving the story forward.
It's like everyone wanted the villain song, but then there was no room for the non-villain songs. That's why some of the movies that came out with, like, under Disney and such, why, yes, some of them had amazing villain songs. Poor Unfortunate Soul, Friends on the Other Side, Be Prepared, all that stuff. And some of them, the best songs, didn't, like, the soundtrack didn't even have a villain song. Maybe a theme by the composer, but not a, like, Mulan didn't have a villain song, but those songs, like A Girl Worth Fighting For and Let's Get Down to Business, or To Be a Man, I guess, and then Bring Honor to Us All, bangers.
You know, all of Tarzan, I know people give, like, shit about Tarzan's music, that it's more, like, narrative driven, but, like, holy shit, like, Phil Collins, like, that opening, and this is, like, my hot Disney take, like, I feel like Two Worlds is a better opening number than Circle of Life. I'm sorry, but I have to tell the truth.
You know what? Respect.
I have to listen to Two Worlds again. But anyway, it just seems like we talked about, we're trying to be expanding upon why we think this show's story is a mess, because it wants to do all these things, but it has people who never worked in animation building a story where...
Well, my theory is that because of how long ago this is, and that Hazbin had some production delays, because originally I think the show was supposed to come out in 2023 or whatever, I think a lot of the production of the show, they were working remotely during COVID, and that's why some of the stuff just weirdly doesn't connect. I mean, those might just be inherent stories with it, but I have just a sneaking suspicion that if this was in a more traditional writer's room, then someone would have said, hey, I'm not sure if this is emotionally hooking me in the way that it should.
I think in Viv's most recent interview with Collider, she did mention that a lot of her staff working on the show is freelance, and they were all working remote. So maybe that could explain some of the narrative hiccups throughout the first two seasons.
It just feels like, did nobody go over the story structure to notes and say, like, or was this just because they were riding hype train of being the first ones out the gate with their indie pilots? Because it seems like, I'm not going to say this was like my analogy that I used with, like, Hootie and the Blowfish earlier, but it seems like they just had a bunch of stuff laying around, and yet they didn't bother to rework it, and then they just let it happen with season 2, and it's like, calm down, season 2. You got too much going on. We even get, like, more glimpses of Charlie's mom, but she doesn't do anything.
I almost kind of wish they didn't show her at all, because, God, that drop at the end would have hit so much harder, or had her been the focus of, like, season 2, which, again, I really wanted Luke to be more involved, because they set it up, and it's just like, why are we going in this completely, like, unrelated direction? Was it implied because the V's did, like, a reprise during the finale that, oh, they're gonna be the big bads? Because if that was not really articulated well at all, in my opinion.
And it's like, I love the action sequences. I love some of the character jokes. I love that they bring up a superfluous background character as, like, and this rooster guy, who, he's been here the whole time.
That joke was funny.
Though it seems like the Smiling Friends are going to be doing a pick-me style gag with one of their future episodes.
I know. Because I remember when I watched it, I was like, fuck, that's Zach, isn't it?
Yeah, just oh boy. And it's like I want to love this show more than I do, and I do like the show fine.
No,
Like at a very like
I
6 out
want
of
to
10.
love it. I'd be a little bit more generous. To me, it would be maybe like a low 7.
I would go maybe 7.5, probably 8. Like this is a show I enjoy watching, but I've told Cameron this, like, it's kind of like Incredibles 2, where I love watching that movie, but taking a step back, there is so much to criticize.
I mean, like, what would have to happen with season 3 and 4 being better? Like, is it just time to get a official writer's room and just whittle down that shit? Or is this like a case of the creator of the show is a better idea person than the people who actually put it together and such? Because sometimes we have those issues where someone has a great idea, but then once they're out of the executive producer spot and they let someone else show run, it turns to be a better experience.
You know, I wouldn't even say that, because I think a lot of Hazbin's writing problems aren't specifically because of Viv or any of the other writers. I think it's more that a lot of bad tropes and, bad writing habits have been kind of normalized of like, oh, this is like the right thing to do. And I think a lot of issues, especially if you're like an armchair critic, which we're not saying we are, but you know the type, is that, we have this CinemaSins mentality of like, oh, this is like how such and such that you write a story. And most people that claim they are writers don't know fucking jack shit about writing. Like, if they've ever taken out a book or like watched anything beyond, oh, I watched a couple of video essays on YouTube, I would genuinely be shocked, because so many of Hazbin's writing issues are really issues that crop up in like a lot of fictional works. Like, I feel like just calling it like, Tumblr-esque is kind of disingenuous, because I don't think that fully covers the problem. But I feel like, especially like, just to go back to Steven Universe for a second, we feel like, oh, the stuff with the townies, oh, that shit's bad, that shit's filler. But it's like, no, you have to develop these moments so that we give a shit about what happens. And this is probably because of the streaming model too, but people don't realize that you kind of need to vibe with something in order to care about. Like, I'm not saying like go to a standstill, but people just don't know like structurally like the mechanics of how stories work beyond the surface level. And then I think a lot of that just subconsciously kind of creeps into shows like Hazbin.
Like, would we need to take a break from the main cast to make the world breathe a little? Like, focus on the overlords, or focus on like, or like do something like, what was that show? Well, a few different shows do this. Like My Hero Academia had an entirely focused episode on Twice, where it took you to the ground level of how villains think and work and function, like not in like a super villain like hyper like danger level, but just what it feels like to be a 2-bit crook in a world of superheroes.
I think the problem is like Hazbin has the opposite problem. I think the problem is we don't really know the main cast at all. Like, other than like Husk and Angel, like, is there really anyone from the main hotel that you kind of generally like give a fuck about?
That's kind of a fair point. Like the main characters, like we know who they are because we know their names, but
and we were literally told, which again, that's just a me writing trope. Like, I hate it. I'm like, just let us experience this. Like, don't tell us like what we're supposed to be feeling like on screen. If you want to do that in the screenplay, fine. Like, don't like spoon feed me like that.
That may also be like a general streaming issue where shows in general just aren't given enough time to breathe.
Like, I just want there to be a more substantial experience, because I don't know if I'm ever going to be excited for this show to come back. Like, if season 3 comes out next year, I'll watch it, we'll talk about it, I'll hope it's better and that I actually like it, but I'm not excited for it like I am with something like The Mighty Nine right now. Like, The Mighty Nine is so good because it's such a different kind of story compared to Vox Machina, where Vox Machina is just like a basic underdog become the big saviors of the kingdom or the land story, where where The Mighty Nine is like taking 3 to 4 episodes to really build up the individual characters of who they are and what is driving them. Or there's enough mystique about them to, like, unless you exactly know what the campaign has done, you know nothing about them, but there's something interesting about them because they introduce little tidbits here and there about the characters. With Hazbin Hotel, I'm wondering again if this just would have been better as like an episodic, like, shenanigan like show, like a gag show.
Like, I kind of wish, oddly enough, it was more like Hell of a Boss, where it still does have its episodic moments. Like, I kind of feel like it would have benefited better, but I kind of feel like we're past that point. But really, I feel like the nexus of, like, why, like, emotionally a lot of the season didn't work for me is literally the finale, which I'm not sure if I told you guys this, but, in, like, I can't believe we're saying this again, K-pop Demon Hunters. So, in, like, the first 2 minutes of K-pop Demon Hunters, they do the whole prologue with, like, the song, like, "We are hunters, voices stronger." Like, they established right at the get-go how this world works, and they're basically telling you, hey, in about 88 minutes, this is how the movie's going to end. Like, literally, like, the singing is incorporated as part of their world building. Like, they show you how the Han Moon and, like, how, like, the different powers work. So then when we meet, Zoe, Mira, and Rumi, and, Rumi is the main character, but, Zoe and Mira still have their moments. We have, like, a relationship to them. We get to know them. So then when we get to the finale, we actually give a shit about what happens. Like, it feels like a natural escalation of everything that's happened. And then when the background characters get involved, it's because, it's not because they're just standing there. It's because we've literally been building to it this entire time. That whole finale just feels like the poor man's version of what it sounds like. And and here's the part that kind of makes me sad, that they just went with the most generic, power of friendship and ending, like just the basic bare bones anime version of it.
And it's like, they don't go fully with it. And I got a little weary about, are they trying to redeem Valentino and Velvet because they were just sick of Vox's shit? And they didn't. They're now in control of their section of hell, with however hell actually works in this universe, because it seems like it works on 2 different functions. But it's like, no, I'm sorry, I don't really want to see Valentino go through a redemption arc, which is something the fans really want to see, with Valentino, like, becoming a good guy. And even though his "I'm from fucking Florida" line was amazing, no, if he becomes a good guy, I don't know, like, we've seen him do nothing but be an abusive monster to Angel Dust and everyone he's attached to. Why?
I think that's, if there's one takeaway I think is important, is not every character deserves redemption. And I don't just mean in this show, I mean just in general. Like, characters are allowed to be flawed or, like, morally in the wrong.
But that's the thing that makes it even less sense with Vox. Like, him redeemed, like, he pretty much gets off like scot-free. Like, that fucker should have died.
He really should have died. And to hear like, oh, this isn't the last you'll see of him. Fuck.
It's like, wow, like, way to take the wind out of the sails. Which, but by the way, what the hell is the power that the random background characters in the cast use? They just introduced that. What the fuck is that? Like, I don't get it.
Are you talking about the Care Bear stare?
Yes.
Oh god. It's funny because the only thing I really liked about season 2 was the Serpentis and Cherry Bomb stuff. Like, I feel like that was like, even though they could have done those two things better, I loved the ending where Serpentis is like, yes, I have been redeemed. Heaven is like, I'm here in heaven and everything's great. And Cherry Bomb's is like, yo, Pentis, what the fuck?
And he's like, yo, what up, girl? That genuinely made me laugh. Like, just, Alex Brightman's delivery. He's like, hey, what's up?
It's like, again, Serpentis gets more of a character arc than Charlie or than most of these characters.
It's weird. Like, when you think about it, like, his character arc was actually kind of fucking great.
Yeah.
He had a good backstory again, and how his whole redemption arc was, I mean, yes, it was explained in season 2, but you can understand why he would, like, even before you find out about his human side of, like, feeling like he couldn't do anything to save people from essentially Jack the Ripper. It's the fact that he was brought in as a spy to the hotel originally. He fucked up. He got thrown out by Vox. But then Charlie gave him a second chance. And Serpentis making the heroic sacrifice makes sense. He wants to, like, make it up to the people who have helped him become a better person. Granted, a lot of it's still off screen, but it at least makes sense of who his character is. And then, yes, it absolutely works that he's the first one to get redeemed. I still love that scene in season 1 where he just plops down in heaven, and Sarah and Emily look at him, and he's just like, oh, hello. Emily's like, oh my god, it works. Sarah's like, oh, fuck. It's like, oh shit, this happened now. Great. How do we work on that? They didn't even focus on that. There was no real time or discussion of Sarah coming up with a plan. Like, that was the whole conflict of her character. Of, like, how can we be forgiven for what we did? Well, we threw away that script page that explains it, so sorry. And, it's like, it's sad. The first indie pilot series to make it big gets big, only to then really show the problems with indie animation as a whole, when you have people who do not work in animation making animation. So, I just mean, thank God it's not an X-Arm level failure, but...
Oh my god, like, if anyone actually purposely had that level of incompetence, I would be more impressed than Matt, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like, man, you failed upward so hard that you became infamous. Good job. No, so, I like season 2 fine. It's better than season 1. Still has a lot of issues. I still liked a lot of it. Like I said, I think episode 6 has the best songs in in the episode, or just like of song per episode ratio.
Right, like episode 6. And this is the thing that amazes me. It's both the best episode and the absolute worst episode of the season.
Yeah, because of the Angel thing. But Love in a Bottle is a great song. Easy's a lot of fun.
Oh, Easy was so much fun because I'm like, oh, you really did the Jessica Rabbit homage and you actually did it right.
Yeah, no, it's like, there's great things to like about this show, and it sucks that we can't talk about this show like normal fucking human beings because the fandom are too terminally online through Tumblr, Facebook, or whatever
And then you have a bunch of psychos who, like, they're like, yeah, look at, stupid gay show. Like, how dare people be happy?
It's like, y'all, calm down. There are so much worse things right now to be mad at than a show not working out. But
it's not even that it doesn't work out. It's just, my thing with Hazbin, it's more like frustration. Like, I feel like it has the potential. Like, I believe it has to be the potential to be a much better show than it actually is.
yeah, it can be better. It should be better. It is not getting there. I hope it does at one point. But I feel like with 2 seasons left and 2 seasons down, on top of the fact now that Hell of a Boss can be put into the Hazbin Hotel side of the universe, I don't know if there is a good way to course correct enough without having to basically start from scratch again. So
yeah, this is kind of a tough one. I'm holding out hope that the show just will improve, but maybe this just is the show that Viv wants to make. And we are just being, I mean, our criticisms are valid, but still.
Like, my hope is that since the ending, like, for all the Groundhog Day-isms aside, it seems like we are finally having the hotel where it will be more fully in the focus. And I feel like Lilith is going to be a major problem, which, would be really funny. Like, if she's voiced by, like, a celebrity, like Lady Gaga or fucking Adina, because, like, of course it'd be fucking Adina. Like, it's going to be someone big. And it's just, she's going to cause a bunch of problems and potentially sabotage the hotel. Like, that's what I'm kind of hoping, is that maybe we start scaling stuff down, but at the same time, it's like...
it's kind of hard to now, though, because you just had your big hell villain try to almost successfully blow up heaven with the Death Star laser without the Death Star. So I'm just wondering, where do you go from here outside of personal drama? Because you're not going to kill anyone. So, and heaven, for all of its warts, should be fully aware that Lute is pulling a Starscream and is going to want to cause as much mass murder as possible, but who knows? It's like, and it's also like this show's, for at least right now, even though I feel like it's not picking up as much steam as it should be, is like critic proof. We could have said this is the worst thing ever. It could have fumbled the ball every step of the way, and it still would have been one of the most successful shows of the internet.
Yeah, like at this point, like, Hazbin is like so big and like so beloved, has such a collective fandom that it's too big to fail, and like all the little fucking weirdos can bitch till the cows come home. You can't get rid of this show. It is here to stay, warts and all. And I'm still glad that there is a Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss, because obviously, with its popularity, it fills a much needed niche of like shows for kids that aren't quite little, but even though it's adult animated, like, not like so adult that it's like traumatizing.
Yeah, like we still don't really have a solid young adult demographic when it comes to animation. Anime, certainly it's there, but in Western animation, it's either stuff for kids, stuff for preschool kids, or stuff for adults.
Pretty much. And it's just a bummer, because I feel like if there was like nothing else in its way, Hazbin Hotel Season 2 would have been really big. But when we've had other shows like Bat Fam come into the fray and do its redemption arc storyline better, and then if it's like, okay, we're going to have more songs than ever now, K-pop Demon Hunter's just like, out of the way, motherfucker. So, like, K-pop just kind of took over Hazbin's fan base, I think. So,
yeah, I think there's a little bit of crossover there.
I mean, good, that's fine. That it's like they can coexist, you can like both things. And that's really what I want to end this on. We have said our issues in praise of the show. You can still like it. We're not saying you're a dumb baby who doesn't know any better or doesn't eat caviar from a silver spoon, you can like this show. It's okay. I'm not going to hunt you down and punch you.
And you're saying this to a person who, for whatever reason, watched 10 whole seasons of American Horror Story and watches the 911 verse religiously. And those shows, on a base level, have way more problems than Hazbin Hotel.
Exactly. It's okay. I like my trashy stuff too. I like my wonky, flawed stuff as well. It's okay. It's okay. Unless you're watching something truly irredeemably horrible and really extremely problematic, you could just like Hazbin Hotel. It's okay.
You liking it is not a moral failing.
No. If you hear someone say that, they're the losers of the loser bracket of animation fandom. So I think that's really it. This episode's going really long, but we had a lot to talk about. So you know what? A show like this, having a lot to talk about, is a godsend sometimes, because when we're going through the anime season, boy howdy, is it just not a whole lot to talk about.
Because that's one thing I will say about Hazbin. It's never a boring show to talk about. There's always something to converse. There's some shows that, yeah, it was good. Never fucking think about it again. Hazbin is bright and colorful, and it will never let you forget it.
No, it has an identity, which is something that most shows wish they could have. But next time, we will be talking about Zootopia 2 in your dreams. And if we can or fit it in, because we're, again, working on the fall anime season stuff, the twits. But we'll see how that goes. So, until next time.
Yeah, until next time. Bree, where can everyone find you online?
Well, if you want to get your pitchforks and burn the witch, you can find me at crazylemur.bsky.social. I'm also on Instagram at LemursRoll1, where I will post artsy stuff, cooking pics, and pictures of my dog. So if you like wholesome crap, follow me there.
And Cameron?
You can find me on Blue Sky or X at camsiview.biz, or you can go to my website called camsiview.biz, where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I am picking back up steam of writing stuff for there. I am also a contributor to Media Magpies, your new one-stop shop for pop culture and media discussion discourse. I am also picking up steam to write stuff for that site again. So and I have a Patreon at patreon.com/camsiview. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at CaptainK42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Renegade Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.